From trees fighting in the forest to mysterious volcanoes that spit blue lava, here are 10 strange discoveries found on Earth. Bosnian Stone Sphere. The discovery of a stone sphere in the forest of Bosnia is one of the strangest discoveries on Earth. It appears to be a lost relic of some kind of ancient civilization. It's about 9 feet 3 meters wide and is a perfectly circular stone ball located in the Visoko Valley. It was first believed that the stone was made by some kind of unknown civilization that had once inhabited the area over 1,000 years ago. However, recent evidence has decided otherwise. Experts now believe that the ball is actually a naturally occurring rock formation known as concretion. It's still pretty mysterious. The circumstances surrounding the formation of such a giant ball are still fairly unknown. It's believed that the giant sphere was formed by mineral particles accumulating and being stuck together over millions of years ago to form a kind of cement. Because the concretion is typically harder than the surrounding rock it forms inside of, it ends up being oddly shaped, like this giant sphere. It's just another one of nature's bizarre mysteries. The smallest mummy. Anyone interested in mummies will be happy to know that the smallest mummy in the world is perfectly preserved and currently on display at the Museo de los Momias in Guanajuato, Mexico. This bizarre museum has more than 100 mummies on display, and it's the largest collection in the Western Hemisphere. Unlike Egyptian mummies, these ones are not that old. They're not that royal either. Gravediggers first exhumed the mummies from the area in 1865. In those days, there was a law requiring families to pay a tax on their loved ones being buried forever. If the family couldn't pay the tax, the authorities dug up the corpses and then discarded them. Because of the natural minerals in the soil, many of the bodies that were dug up were naturally mummified, just like this tiny mummy of a 6-month-old fetus, the very smallest in the world. There are other bizarre mummies on display at this museum also, such as the Chamber of Death, an open coffin with a mummy that has spikes driven through its body and skull. As the story goes, this was a rather brutal punishment for a man who had offended the Catholic Church. The whole museum is morbid and pretty disturbing, so only visit if you have a strong stomach. Antarctic hot rock. A strange discovery in Antarctica has revealed a hot spot that is currently melting ice at the South Pole. The affected area is about 3 times larger than the area of the city of London, and scientists suspect a combination of radioactive rocks and geothermal hot springs are responsible for this weird hot zone. The bedrock is far warmer than it should be, and it's working to remove about 6 millimeters of ice a year from the underside of an extremely thick ice sheet. This produces a lot of meltwater that flows off through subglacial rivers towards the continent's coastline. The hotspot was first discovered when researchers examined radar images of the ice sheet at the South Pole. According to a report by the BBC, the radar imaging revealed a giant hot rock causing the ice sheet to sag above it. While it doesn't have a dramatic effect on the world or even on the area, it is still an interesting discovery. Researchers are pretty sure the rocks are hot because they contain radioactive elements like uranium and potassium. Who would have known that there would be radioactive rocks underneath the South Pole? Could there be a better explanation? Perhaps some type of undiscovered military base deep underground and under the ice? A secret nuclear waste dump? Or something even more fantastic and mysterious? Let me know your best ideas in the comment section below. Then once you're done with that, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. There are always lots of amazing videos just like this one coming out, and you'll need to subscribe to make sure you don't miss any of them. Blue lava. We typically expect volcanoes to explode with red-hot magma. The key word here is red. However, there is a bizarre volcano in Indonesia that burns bright blue rather than a dark and hungry red. It even belches blue flames instead of red ones. I'm talking about the Kawah Ijen volcano, and it emits an outstanding electric blue glow. Why is this volcano so much different from the others? It's not actually the lava itself that's blue, it's just because of the combustion of sulfur gases coming into contact with the air at temperatures over 680 degrees Fahrenheit. Basically, the lava or the molten rock that spits out of the earth does so at an extremely high temperature. It's the same color as the lava from other volcanoes, but because of an excess of sulfuric gases, high pressures, and ridiculously hot temperatures, the sulfur burns a bright blue. There is so much sulfur being expelled from the volcano that the lava flowing down the rock face often appears electric blue. However, this effect is only visible at night. If you were to visit the volcano in the day, the lava would look red as usual. Still, it's a pretty unique place on our planet and an interesting scientific discovery. It just goes to show you, right when we think we've figured the world out, it throws us a curveball to keep us guessing. The Crystal Cave. Buried 984 feet beneath the Sierra de Naica mountain in Chihuahua, Mexico, is one of the strangest places on the planet. There is a giant gypsum cave full of crystals that look like they belong on another planet. The giant crystals were first discovered in 2000 after a mining company pumped all the water out of the cave. It's an absolutely incredible place with jagged gypsum crystals stabbing through the walls, ceiling, and floor in no particular order. According to how stuff works, these crystals have been forming uninterrupted for at least 500,000 years. Most of them are large enough to walk across, and all of them are a dirty, almost translucent white. However, there is no way you can visit this strange crystal palace. It's a death trap. If you somehow manage to get almost 1,000 feet beneath the earth into the cave without dying, you would quickly perish inside the cave itself. The temperature reaches around 113 degrees Fahrenheit inside the crystal cave, but what's really deadly is the humidity levels, which reach around 100%. It's so humid inside the cave that anyone who lingers for too long could have the fluids inside their lungs condense. This place would literally sweat you to death. I wonder if we're ever going to be able to visit it, or if it will remain a strange and untouchable relic deep underground for all of time. Russian stone spheres. Let's take a look at some more giant stone spheres. These ones come from deep below the ground inside a coal mine in Siberia. Excavators unearthed 10 enormous spheres of stone, each one totally smooth and about 3.5 feet, 1 meter across. But what exactly the stones are caused by is a bit of a controversy. There were all kinds of theories, everywhere from buried artifacts to the eggs of some great prehistoric beast. However, these Russian stone spheres are concretions just like the giant stone from Bosnia. It turns out that these weird natural formations are not as rare as scientists previously thought. The giant orbs formed deep underground over a process that took millions of years. Just like a snowball, each concretion starts out extremely tiny. But over the years, sediment builds up around the center of the ball and gradually grows and grows, just like a snowball rolling down a hill. Only the ball doesn't actually move anywhere. The concretion stays perfectly still while sediment builds up around it, often brought by flowing groundwater. The sediment fuses with mineral cement, and after a few million years, you have a giant ball that looks like one of Godzilla's eggs. Yonaguni Monument. The Yonaguni Monument is one of the strangest and most unexplainable constructs ever found on Earth. There is so much mystery surrounding this thing that nobody knows what it is. It's just off the southern coast of Japan and slightly east of Taiwan, and it appears to be a massive pyramid on the ocean floor built by a lost civilization. But there is a ton of debate surrounding it. Some marine geologists claim the formations are man-made, but other scientists claim it could simply be a formation of rock. The most suspicious part is that nobody in the Japanese government is recognizing the monument as a cultural artifact, and no Japanese agency is carrying out any kind of research. If you ask me, that feels a little shifty considering this could be the most ancient man-made thing in Japan. Early estimates place the age of the rock at about 10,000 years old. This would have been at a time when the pyramid was above water. Therefore, many researchers believe it could be part of the lost continent of Mu, a mythical lost world kind of like Atlantis. Most researchers believe further exploration could reveal a giant pyramid, castles, the remnants of roads and monuments, and much more. What do you think? Is it a natural rock formation or something a lot more interesting? Let me know in the comments. Lucy. Arguably one of the strangest and most interesting discoveries ever found on Earth was the fossil of the oldest known early human. This happened in 1974 in the northern Afar region of Ethiopia. It was discovered by a paleanthropologist named Donald Johanson while surveying the area. He spotted a small bit of elbow bone and began to dig. He then discovered a jaw, some vertebrae, and pieces of the skull. Once everything was found and analyzed, it turned out that the skeleton in question was at least 3.2 million years old. That makes the skeleton the absolute oldest hominid ever found. She was promptly named Lucy because the night of the discovery, Johanson played the famous Beatles song Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. He also assumed the skeleton was female because it was small. Today, Lucy is recognized as the most important fossil ever discovered, but even though this happened over 40 years ago, there are still some pieces missing from the puzzle. What we do know is that Lucy not only walked on her 2 legs, but also spent a lot of time in the trees like a chimpanzee. She's the closest evidence we have to a missing link between us and apes. Trees fighting. Perhaps the weirdest discovery of the last decades is that trees can fight. According to an article from the Huffington Post, trees and plants are more complicated and intelligent than we have been giving them credit for. They can talk to each other, they can share food, and they can go to war. We already knew that plants can kind of see since they grow towards the light, but their abilities go much further. Because trees are always being attacked by animals and insects, they have developed defense mechanisms. One prime example of this is the umbrella thorn acacia. This is a favorite tree of the giraffe, but the trees don't like being eaten, so when they sense a giraffe trying to eat them, they release a special chemical known as ethylene. Once the ethylene is released, it makes the leaves bitter so that the giraffe stops eating and goes away. The tree also sends a signal to other trees nearby to let them know to release their own ethylene so that the giraffes end up going away and eating a different group of trees. There are a lot of different examples of trees fighting back. There are probably even some pretty incredible defense mechanisms trees use to fight that we have yet to discover. Let's just hope they don't lash out at us anytime soon. We can't afford a world without trees. The Earth's biggest living organism. When you think about the largest living thing on Earth, you typically think about elephants and whales, maybe even giant trees. But it has been discovered that the largest living thing in the world is actually a whole mass of giant fungus. It's nicknamed the humongous fungus, and it's an organism that covers 2,385 acres, which is just about 4 square miles, 10 square kilometers of the Malheur National Forest in Oregon. Of course, this is not just one massive piece of fungus. It's a giant network with thousands of roots that goes below the soil of the forest. The only thing visible from above are the mushrooms that sprout once a year. But the actual organism lives under the ground, feeding off tree roots, killing everything in its path and growing using the decay. If left untreated, this enormous organism actually has the power to gobble up an entire forest and spread exponentially and endlessly. But it's doubtful that it will ever take over the world anytime soon. There are a lot of natural barriers like oceans, mountains, and deserts that hem it in. Still, the humongous fungus is the biggest living organism on Earth. It's another one of these discoveries that really reminds us of how amazing our planet is. Which of these amazing Earth discoveries is the most fascinating? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and thank you for watching. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. See you again soon for another amazing video.